Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Monday Night Travel. Please pour yourself a pint and get ready for the season 13 premiere of Rick Steves Europe with TV producer Josh Springer. And I'll mention again that this is the season 13 premiere of Rick Steves Europe. We're going to watch the Royal London episode, which came out in the last week. So it's brand new, and that is cause for a party. And to party with us and to elaborate on what we're seeing and why and how we're seeing it, if that makes sense,
Yeah, sure.
is TV producer Josh Springer. So hello, Josh. Welcome to Monday Night
Oh,
Travel.
thanks. This is truly a pleasure to be here. I feel like a longtime listener and watcher who's now a caller, right? And I'm on the show. So this is great fun. And sorry if you were expecting a Blue Badge Travel Guide to be here. I hope that the insight and the stories I can share from being on the road with Rick and how we make the show and kind of what goes into that will be equally appealing tonight.
Yes, I know you're going to have some great things to share behind the scenes look at this London episode. So thank you, Josh.
No problem.
Tell me, how long have you been with Rick Steves Europe?
Well, I started about in March, so maybe 9, 10 months. So it's just been not a very long time. Just the kind of the first season.
And what is the work of a TV producer like? I really don't know.
Oh, no one knows, and that's okay if you don't know, because there's the title television producer has lots of different meanings. I would say on this show, it's kind of like being a general contractor. If you've ever had someone come and work on your house, it's someone who organizes the whole production, make sure that it's finished on time, on budget. And so on this show, I'll help with Rick manage the script. I'll help with insurance and permits and making sure our logistics are in order. I will talk with the production people, the technical people, the cameramen, the audio team, the post-production team. I work very closely with our editor and our graphics people. And then I help get the show distributed through American Public Television where it's seen. So I have the best part about being a producer is you get to be involved in all aspects of the show from beginning to end. And so you get to see every part of the show.
That's fantastic.
It's really fun, and it is such a pleasure to work on this show.
You're very involved. Very
Yeah,
involved
it's
work.
great. It's very involved. So it's at the end of the day, if someone has a question, they can usually ask the producer. And even if I don't know what the answer is, I know who to ask.
And was this your first filming shoot with Rick, or had you gone out with him in Europe
So
before?
yeah, so when I started back in March, we were working on. I came in about halfway through season 13, and so we were filming for the Istanbul show and then a Rome show, which will be later. A lot of times for efficiency, we will film multiple shows at once. And so we filmed two of the Istanbul shows, which are broadcast, they're airing available now. And we also filmed two London shows at that time. So Rome, Istanbul, and London. And overall, been on the road with Rick and Carl for, I don't know, it was 6 weeks or so, 3 and 2, or a little more.
Why don't you set the scene for us? What month was this shoot
So
in,
we
and
were,
what
yeah.
preparation did you have to do?
So we filmed in June, like June 16th, so 12 days, just mid-June. And preparation really comes down to first we look at the script and try to figure out where is exactly do we want to go, because we need to be really efficient so that we're showing up to places. We got to make sure if you're going to the National Portrait Gallery, is it open? Is it going to be available? If we're going to film Changing the Guard, are we going to be out there on the day when that occurs? We look at weather to make sure that, okay, if we're going to be outdoors, we need to plan for that. Get involved with permits. So there's a lot of planning on the front end that takes place, and it's based largely around the script, because then that helps. That's kind of our playbook for, where should we go? And then I communicate, and then I kind of build out a timeline for the post-production of the show. So, and another thing we do is we really look at how can we maximize kind of the travel information with the experiences. And so we will, one of the beauties of being here at Rick Steves is there's this wonderful archive of footage. There's this treasure trove of footage. And so sometimes we will look, is this actually something that visually we need to update? Or can we use archive footage and it still serves the same purpose? Then we'll use that opportunity to go get, new information or meet new people. So it's a combination of looking what we have and what do we need.
Yeah, that takes quite a bit of effort and skill. So
It's a lot of fun,
yeah.
right? It's really fun, and sometimes it's this wonderful history project, because I get to go, where is this place? Where are we going? Who's there? And then I reach out to people and plan in advance.
Well, Josh, you have so much on your plate. Thank you for taking the
No,
time
it is my pleasure.
to share your experience in London. So
It's so fun.
cheers to
Well,
that.
cheers.
And we
And
have a
here
nice British lager
I love it.
here.
To London town.
Yeah, to London. That's right.
It's great.
And we also have to enjoy later bangers and mash because why not?
Oh, I
Yeah.
mean, after my
So,
own heart right there.
yeah, I agree. So with that, why don't we get started
I
with
love it.
Royal London?
Off we go.
Hey, I'm Rick Steves, back with more of the best of Europe. This time, we're enjoying a King's Greatest Hits tour in one of the world's leading cities. We're in London. Thanks for joining us. This royal tour of a city I've been coming back to all my life features the capital of one of the greatest empires ever known. It's no wonder it's packed with sites that put the great in Britain. With a 1,000-year heritage of kings and queens and 9 million citizens today, it has a fascinating story to tell. On our Greatest Hits tour, we'll cheer on royal pageantry and celebrate the People's Parliament. We'll cruise the Thames and summit an inspiring dome. After remembering Britain's heroes from the first Elizabeth to the last, we'll get greedy at the Bank of England, drink a pint with the locals, then storm a medieval tower to meet a genuine beef eater. London, the capital of England and straddling the River Thames, entertains. We'll start at Buckingham Palace and Westminster, with its Abbey, Houses of Parliament, and Big Ben. From Trafalgar Square, with its great museums, we venture through the business district called the City, with stops at St. Paul's Cathedral and the Tower of London. Then we hike from Tower Bridge along the South Bank back to the London Eye to complete our royal tour.
Beautiful. And a royal tour it is, some of the most impressive sights in the very center of London. Josh, do you have a favorite among these or one that stands out to you?
It is, what I love is when I see this map, it reminds me of the pair of shoes I wore out because all those little dots, I mean, we'll take a cab here and there, we'll take the tube, but because we film along the way, we walk everywhere. And so we average about 10 miles a day, be like 30,000 steps. And we carry our gear and we move around. So as I look at this, that's what I think of. If people think, oh, how does the production? Oh, we just walk. We walk. And Rick, for those of you that go, oh, what's it like to, Rick walks fast and he loves to move and he's got a lot of energy. So it's no wait for it to answer your question. So probably for me on this list, I truly enjoyed them all. If I had to pick one, there is something magical and emotional about Westminster Abbey. I think it's seeing the history with the Artist's Corner, and some of the new things they've done out front with some of the statues and so forth. I would say that's a very emotional place, especially if you have the inner artist in you, the Dickens and so forth, and to be able to see those tombs in the Poet's Corner and so forth. So,
and that's a great choice for many reasons, in part because we're about to see Westminster now.
Oh, in that case.
We'll start with the traditional, the changing of the guard here at Buckingham Palace. It's the ultimate in royal pageantry, and a huge crowd is gathering to enjoy it. While no longer ruling a vast empire, London is still a capital of regal traditions. At the end of a long shift, fresh guards march out to relieve the exhausted ones. 3 times a week, this ritual comes with marching bands and a public spectacle. This time-honored ceremony still stirs British hearts. And while you have to be very tall or very early to actually see the guards change, I get a kick out of watching what seems like every tourist in London gathered together in one place at the same time.
Josh, is it difficult to film such a busy place with so many people around? Do you need special permission? I mean, what?
You look at these shots and what's fun is about filming is we're clearly not the cool thing happening, right? And so we can blend in. We are a small crew to kind of set the stage. It's Rick. It's a cameraman named Carl and myself. So we have a very small footprint, and so we sort of blend in. Filming in large crowds, I think sometimes it's great because it's exactly how you want it to look and feel. We want to capture what is the experience? What's it going to be like when you're there so you can prepare for the environment? And so sometimes it's great because it has a lot of energy and you get to see the variety of people. Now, The problem is sometimes it's really crowded in places where we're trying to film and it doesn't work so well. In this case, it's great because this is what it's going to look like. And quite honestly, no one's paying any attention to us. Rick can draw a lot of attention, but people are surprisingly very generous by just, they'll walk by and they don't really bother us.
Yeah. Here at Buckingham Palace, the changing of the guard, there's many different places that you can go to see the activity. And in our guidebook, we list a lot of great tips on how to experience it so you can minimize how many people are around you. So I would recommend taking a look in the book. Now we'll go.
Should now we go? Okay,
yes.
Off we go.
Yes.
We'll get your walking shoes on because it's a little bit of a hike.
Today, England's royal family calls Buckingham Palace home. But 1,000 years ago, they lived on the River Thames in what was called the Palace of Westminster. Over the centuries, that palace of monarchs evolved to become this building and the center of modern Britain's democracy. It started when representatives of local communities, or commons, gathered here to be near their king. Eventually, they began meeting independently as the House of Commons, or Parliament. And to this day, Britain is ruled from right here, the Houses of Parliament. Visitors are welcome to queue up for a free look at today's democratic process in action. Your visit starts with a stroll through the majestic building itself. Westminster Hall, surviving for over 600 years, was at one time the grandest hall in all of Europe. At first, it was a glorious throne room, the heart of the palace. Imagine the king ruling as a divine monarch, presiding from the far end, dispensing justice, welcoming ambassadors, and hosting boisterous banquets. The self-supporting oak hammer beam construction, an ingenious network of braces and arches creating a longer span with shorter pieces of wood, survives from 1397. Just down the richly ornamented hall, the public is welcome to witness the Parliament in action. This is where the leading politicians of England, either in the uppity House of Lords or the rowdier House of Commons, have gathered for centuries. While Westminster Hall is original Gothic, like much of the most medieval-looking architecture in Europe, the exterior of the Houses of Parliament is actually over-the-top faux medieval. It's neo-Gothic from the 1800s, the age of Queen Victoria. With prickly spires, stained glass, and church-like pointed arches, Victorian England reaffirmed both its royal and Christian medieval roots. The famous bell tower is also neo-Gothic. People call it Big Ben, but it's actually the Queen Elizabeth Tower. Ben is the famous 13-ton bell behind the clock.
We see so many perspectives here, Josh. Inside, outside, aerial at times. How do you decide how to film?
Well, that's a great question. So Rick a lot of times what Rick goes in advance when he'll do research for the book. And while he's there, he'll double up duties and think about where would these great locations for the stand-ups be, especially stand-ups where he's on camera. And so a lot of times we go in with a plan, but what often happens is you get there and the lighting isn't right, or there's construction happening, or there's jackhammers going on, and so you have to pivot a little bit. And I was noticing just the previous stand-up where Westminster Hall was right behind us. I remember that was one of those that we didn't have planned, and we were actually going to film that at the Tower of London, but the lighting was great. And this is part of being a producer and a production team on this type of shoot is you have to be willing to adapt and look for those magical moments that just are so, and then you asked about permits, and there was a gate. And I wouldn't say it wasn't like we had bolt cutters, but we sort of come around and we look around and it seems like it's okay. And we do a great stand up there. And so I remember this one of those serendipitous moments. And that's part of the job is being aware for, hey, not only did we get the stand up and are we telling the story, but was it the best version? And so I think we work very hard for those. And a lot of times it just comes down to the environment.
And your ability to be nimble with such a small crew must help a lot.
It does. It does. So it has both pros and cons, right? Because if you had more gear, you might be able to achieve different types of looks in certain environments. But I think this show really has such a great established look and style, and it works great. And the locations, then the show moves quickly, right? And so I think that We take advantage of the locations and we find some of those postcard moments, but we also try to find places that are a little unexpected so you don't see them all the time.
Well, your skill and the thought you put into this episode really
I
shows,
think
Josh.
Rick and Carl really deserve a lot of the credit because they, together, they really have a good look and a vision. And sometimes it's that communication that we have, and we make it work.
It's a brilliant team effort. Well, I think now we might go to
Okay, well, let's
Westminster
see what happens.
Get there at some point.
Just across the street from Big Ben is Westminster Abbey. This most historic church in the English-speaking world is where kings and queens have been crowned, married, and buried since 1066. While it was first built in the 11th century, much of what we see today is 14th century. When there's a royal wedding, coronation, or funeral, the world looks on as, amid all this splendor, Britain's glitterati gather under graceful Gothic arches. The centerpiece is the tomb of Edward the Confessor, who founded the abbey. And surrounding Edward are the tombs of 29 other kings and queens. This is the tomb of Queen Elizabeth I. Her royal orb symbolizes that she was queen of the entire globe. The abbey is filled with the remains of people who put the great in Britain: saints, musicians, scientists, and soldiers. For lovers of English literature, strolling through Poets' Corner can be a pilgrimage in itself. The Lady Chapel, with its colorful windows and fanciful banners, has the festive air of a medieval pageant. The elaborate ceiling is a fine example of fan vaulting, a style that capped the Gothic age. At the far end, a wall of modern stained glass marks the Royal Air Force Chapel. It honors the fighter pilots of all nations who died defending Britain in 1940. With saints in stained glass, heroes in carved stone, and the remains of England's greatest citizens under the floorstones, Westminster Abbey is the national church and the religious heart of England.
I have a confession to make. I've actually never been inside Westminster Abbey. And of course, I've always known that it's extremely important. But when I see this, it really comes across why that's the case. And I'm just wondering, Josh, as someone who has gone inside Westminster Abbey, did you feel the significance of the place?
I really think you can, if you pause to appreciate and take a look, kind of the history and the stories. And sometimes it's hard to, when you're there, to take it all in, and it can be overwhelming. Oh, I see the architecture and I understand. But if you slow down, and I think when we're filming this, so there's two ways for me to look at this. There's, as a TV producer, when we're there, we're honestly moving pretty quickly, and we're there to achieve a very specific objective. And so we get there, we get the shot, we move on. So that's not always, I don't really have the same experiences when you're traveling and you're really visiting. But sometimes I try to, especially for like lunches and extras, I'll try to take just 2 minutes and just pause and really absorb it. And I think if we can, so what I would say is, yes, if you slow down and you really think, oh, the 15th century, this was built, how did they do that? And you think about how many, ceremonies have been there. And it really gives you a little bit, it kind of makes your hair raise, because you are in a place where so much history has taken place.
Yeah.
So I do think so. And while one could argue that can take place in many different of the places that we're going to visit in this show, this one stands out for me.
Mm-hmm. I can see why, Josh.
Yeah, it's something else.
And, it is a place that does benefit from an advanced reservation. I'll try and mention that throughout, because these are some of the most popular places in London. They can be busy. You can just buy this ticket ahead online.
That's a good idea.
And we'll go to Whitehall now, just down the road.
New royal palace that once stood here. The biggest palace in Europe in its day, it stretched all the way from Big Ben to Trafalgar Square at the end of this street. While that palace is long gone, its name survives, Whitehall, today Britain's most important street. The British Empire, which once ruled nearly a quarter of the world's population, was managed from here. A Whitehall walk, passing Britain's version of the Pentagon, is filled with reminders of Britain's proud and hard-fought history. Stately reliefs, war heroes on pedestals, and stern buildings seem to celebrate the empire upon which the sun never set. As it has for centuries, the Royal Horse Guard Cavalry still keeps the royal family safe. And if you're here at the right time, you'll enjoy the ritual changing of this guard as well. Britain's prime ministers have long lived and worked on Whitehall at the famous and carefully guarded address, number 10 Downing Street. And one of the greatest was Winston Churchill, remembered here with the iconic trench coat he wore leading his country through the dark days of World War II. Deep under the halls of government, you can visit the Churchill War Rooms. This was the secret underground nerve center of the British government's fight against the Nazis, even as German bombs rained down on London during the Blitz. Shut down after victory in 1945 and ignored for decades, these war rooms are open today as a fascinating time warp for visitors to explore. Audio guides give it meaning.
On the morning of the 16th of August, 1945, the day after VJ Day and the end of the war, the map officers tidied their desks, switched out the lights for the first time in 6 years, and went home. And that's the way the room stayed.
The adjacent museum introduces you to Churchill the man. It brings the colorful statesman to life, complete with his trademark cigar, bow tie, cognac, he loved his drink, and famous bowler hat. You'll get a taste of Winston's irascibility, wit, work ethic, even the industry of kitschy knickknacks he inspired.
Before I ask you about Churchill and the war rooms and museums, I'll just mention that the changing of the guard we saw at Whitehall happens regardless of the weather, whereas changing the guard at Buckingham Palace is canceled in bad weather. So if you're in London when the weather's not great, which is certainly possible, you can go see the changing the guards at Whitehall. Okay, the Churchill War Rooms. This is such an important site. I have always wanted to go here and still haven't gone. What did you think? What was it like filming here?
Well, it's great. Now, so the insider scoop on this segment of this show is, the war room hasn't changed since we filmed the show previously, like I think in 2012. There's been some updates to the way the audio is done, now through the app or as it was before. And Rick has changed a little bit, just a little bit, right? The shirt's the same color, okay, and the hair, and it's the same height. So in that segment filming there, we knew, okay, we need to get Rick on camera and establish some new shots. We need to show the new interface and how you listen to the audio tour and hear the sound bites from Churchill. But the cutaways of the actual exhibit, including the sound that you heard, that's more or less archive footage. And that's one of the planning jobs that we do. It's like, okay, is this something we need to get, or is it just we could record it, but it would sound and look exactly like the footage we have? Let's not spend energy on that, and let's focus on getting new content instead. So filming in there was pretty fun. From a producer's point of view, actually the shot of Rick as he walked by the silhouette of Churchill, the amount of time that we'll spend on that is something we think this is a really interesting, great visual. And so sometimes we spend time on that. And that was a shot that we were really excited about. And so I hope everyone else liked it.
Yeah, it's very well done. And again, a popular site benefits from an advanced reservation.
It's popular.
Back out on Whitehall, there are more monuments. This one built to remember the fallen from World War I. And this one to honor the 7 million women who volunteered in World War II. Whitehall spills into Trafalgar Square, with its memorial to perhaps the greatest English war hero of all time, the one-armed, one-eyed, and one-minded Admiral Horatio Nelson, looking boldly out to sea. The year was 1805. Napoleon, with his grand French army, was poised just on the other side of the English Channel, preparing to invade. Meanwhile, 1,000 miles to the south, off the coast of Spain, Admiral Nelson defeated the French fleet at the Battle of Trafalgar. Napoleon was stopped, and Britannia ruled the waves. Bronze battle reliefs made of melted down French cannon decorate the column. And these huggable lions are a hit with kids. Trafalgar Square is a vibrant people zone. It's where Londoners gather to enjoy concerts, cheer their national team, to kick off a political demonstration, or just enjoy the fountains and a sunny day. Trafalgar Square marks the very center of London. Big Ben, just past Admiral Nelson. Buckingham Palace, a straight shot that way. Soho, where all the nightlife is, it's about 6 blocks over there. The National Gallery has the greatest collection of European paintings in Britain, and St. Martin's in the Field is famous for its classical concerts and its charity work.
Ah, Trafalgar, a great place to people watch, I think.
It is, yeah.
Now, you could have filmed Rick's on camera here from a variety of perspectives, since Trafalgar has so many views, so many things going on. Why did you pick this scene here behind him?
So I think the plan was, in the previous episode, Rick, he's such a pro. Everyone knows he's such a pro. A lot of times we work on teleprompter, but we got there. He goes, no, I know all these places. He can point them out. He goes, let's do a big spin around. Well, on the day we showed up, there was a huge construction project going on because they were setting up a stage for a concert that was going to happen all weekend. So as you're looking at this image, 2 feet to our right begins this huge stage. And, and just behind Rick, off his right shoulder, as you see him to the left there's construction that's starting to put down orange cones and like blocking this walkway. You can almost hear the beeps coming, boop, boop, And so we said, okay, so this is the frame because it looks good. But, and we even talked about it, should we film this bit somewhere else? Mm-hmm. And the reality is we're filming 2 episodes and they took place here. So we did them there.
Would you ever just go back later or the next day if it didn't, like if you knew that the scene was going to change later?
Sure, we can do that if it fits in. And there was very, very early on in the show when Rick does his open and you see Westminster Hall behind him and the sun. We actually shot that. That was one of those moments where we knew something we had filmed didn't look right. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't necessarily go back, but we knew, okay, we don't have this. Mm-hmm. We got to add it to the list. Mm-hmm. If this hadn't worked, we would have just kind of put it on the list. At the end of the shoot, we always sort of build in a little bit of pad. We come for pickups. Okay, this is something we don't have. We need it.
Mm-hmm. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, when you film this kind of style and on a very streamlined budget, you can't just say, okay, we're shutting down. A lot of people see big movie sets and they just shut down the street. Mm-hmm. Not at all.
We will move on to art next, a different way of filming.
Just around the corner, the National Portrait Gallery is the perfect place to look into the eyes of the dynamic cast of characters in Britain's compelling story as it grew from small island nation to global superpower. 500 years ago, it was the formidable Henry VIII who first planted England on the world stage while navigating 6 wives. Henry's shrewd daughter, Queen Elizabeth I, ruled a prosperous age that fostered great minds. Minds like William Shakespeare, whose timeless plays explored the full range of human experience. As their empire grew, the energetic British reshaped the world in many fields. The curious scientist, Isaac Newton, noticed a falling apple and thought, gravity. Novelist Charles Dickens opened his fellow citizens' eyes to the inequalities that came with the Industrial Revolution, while mild-mannered Charles Darwin shocked everyone with his bold theory of evolution. In the turbulent 20th century, our old friend Winston Churchill would rally the nation to victory in World War II. And Queen Elizabeth II served dutifully through 70 years of unprecedented change before passing the crown to her son, Charles, with his queen, ensuring that Britain's long legacy of glorious traditions continues proudly into the 21st century. Britain's history continues to unfold, and the gallery works hard to keep up. With creative displays and a focus on including once marginalized people, there's an ever-changing array of the latest cultural luminaries. From monarchs to war heroes, fashion icons to pop stars, the National Portrait Gallery puts a literal face on the fascinating story of Great Britain.
The National Portrait Gallery is very special, as well as the National Gallery, the British Museum. They are free. London has so many free national museums, so that even though it's an expensive city, you can save a little bit
Right.
and help your wallet out by visiting these places. And Josh, I'm curious because I don't see many people here. Tell us about that.
Well, so this was one of those, we knew it was going to be a big piece of the episode. And to film art, we're a little obtrusive, right? Because we'll set up the camera and we're going to be right up close. And so I arranged for I work with the press office to allow us to come in 2 hours before they open. And they were very accommodating. I explained what we're going to do and what the purpose is. So we filmed 2 hours before it was opened. You might have noticed there was a couple of shots where Rick walks by or walks up and there are people there. And so this was an example where you say, oh, okay, there are times when we can go back. So we filmed just the art and really made sure that we got our checklist of all the different art images that we needed. And then I think we went back a couple days later along our walking path, and Rick can run in, we can get, because we know we just need a few shots. And so we get a few shots of it with people. And sometimes Carl will go in and get establishing shots of people so that, again, we're showing what it's really going to look like when you're there. And you get to see that's what the museum looks like when it's alive and vibrant.
It's very kind of them to allow you to do that.
It was great. And so we sometimes it's 50-50. I'm always surprised at places that are like, no, we don't want you to come in. And then some places are like, absolutely, what time you want to be here. And so, and that's just the nature of filming.
And great prior planning on your part.
There's a little bit of that, right? And so the permit process in London, I won't bore people, but there are 33 different film bureaus. And so a lot of times people like hear, oh, do you need a permit? In London, you have to know which of the boroughs you're in, so you might not even be talking to the right person first. On private property, it's very obvious, but when you're out in public, am I in Westminster? Am I in Whitehall? Am I in the City of London? Am I in a royal park? Am I in a royal historic site? And so in reaching out to all those offices, it's just some of the behind the scenes that's what takes place.
You must have like a stack of
I have a whole binder. I have a whole I still have a binder, believe it or not, because sometimes I'm like, oh, what if I don't have Wi-Fi? And you carry your permits around, and believe it or not, you'll be filming, and they'll walk up, and right when they walk up, you know why they're coming, and you just pull it out of your back pocket because it's easier, it's quicker. It's one of the few times when paper is just really simple, and you pull it out and they read it, and in London it's called no objectionable. It's like a permission. They just say, okay, we don't object. You may film here. And so it helps to have.
Well, kudos to you for doing it.
No, it's part of the job. It's great. Yeah. And it's great fun.
Okay, off we go on our circular tour, continuing on.
The city was the center of London back in the days of Shakespeare and Dickens. Its historic borders are marked by griffins like this. These days, fewer than 10,000 people actually live here, but its 9-to-5 crowd numbers 500,000. Today, this is Britain's Wall Street, busy with bankers and lawyers, thriving with big-time commerce, and packed with heritage. Fleet Street was famous for publishing. Home of early printing presses and newspapers, this was a state-of-the-art center of the original information age. And the city has long been a global center of finance, hosting hundreds of banks, both international and English. This district helped create the first great capitalist economy. At London's original stock exchange, stock, actual livestock like cattle and sheep, was exchanged right here. The Bank of England serves as this country's Fort Knox, guarding a national fortune of gold bars. Its free museum is fascinating and offers an unforgettable chance to actually hold on to a 28-pound gold bar. At today's exchange rates, worth well over $1 million. Wow, $1 million. But these
Wait a second. Is that actually what he said? Explain yourself. Josh.
Okay, so I love this scene because it reminds me of the beauty of production. His first stand-up when he says, cattle, the stock we were saying. I can remember we're right there in the middle of the street. We're filming and the cameraman Carl goes, does that make sense? And I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. You got to settle it. Like, live, stock scene. We're traded right here. Okay. And so I just kind of remember that. And it's one of those conversations we have, and there's these little checks and balances. And okay, so then we go inside, and Rick loves to like mix it up with the people and grab stuff and get involved. So he goes, you get to hold this gold bar. It's really cool. It's so, so okay. So he goes in, drops the thing. We read this on camera. Okay, and so he does an on-camera line, and we filmed it. And then we realized later he had said $500,000. Mm-hmm. And we're watching it, and we can't change it. We thought, what should we do? And so we go into the VO booth with one of our audio engineers, and this is one of the challenges. And we said, we got to get this right. Rick said, it's actually more than $1 million. So through the magic of voiceover and editing, and Rick, we went into the booth, and it's called looping or ADR, and you play it back, and he just read out loud and tried to match his mouth. And so that's why the audio there, when you can tell your friends, excuse me, when you're watching with your friends, you can go, hey, did the audio sound a little different there? You're right, it did.
Well, maybe we need to go back and listen to it.
You want to check? You can do a little test here.
A 28-pound gold bar, at today's exchange rates, worth well over $1 million. Wow, yeah, $1 million.
Said right there on camera was $500,000. Fortunately,
It was very subtle.
Oh,
I don't think I noticed the first time going back.
Right. And so that's where we have to err on those. And we go, first thing and foremost, we got to get it right. We got to make sure that our information is correct. And that's part of the job, is vetting all this. And even afterwards, we go all the way back through and we just got our exchange rate wrong.
So 28 pounds. I was definitely about to take
right? That's good. Yeah, right.
Well, gold is way up.
Gold's way up, right?
Yeah, that is fascinating.
But these days, bank headquarters have moved out, and many of the elegant original bank buildings have morphed into fancy pubs, their vaults now filled with kegs of real English ale. In a British pub, you order at the bar. For a cold and carbonated American-style beer, you'd go for a lager. A bitter and an ale, that would be the traditional English beer. The lagers have short tabs, and the ales and bitters have the long handles, as they need to be physically drawn from kegs in the cellar. The default is a pint, like Josh is having. Or if you're a lightweight TV host trying to stay sober, you can always order a half a pint. Cheers.
Who's that?
Yeah.
Just behind Rick there.
I got this feeling I'm about to get a reputation here. My two on cameras, I'm drinking beer. And what would have been worse, as I'm filling in today, I'd have been like, I was watching going, oh, geez, am I wearing the exact same outfit? Which would have really fitted with the Rick Steves travel philosophy, right? So exactly. I'm glad I'm not, but it's very likely I was wearing the exact same T-shirt.
Well, we
pack light on the road and in the office.
Very true. Very true. Well,
another year. Great fun.
Thank you, Josh.
Thanks for letting me be here. This is great. And I really do like this episode. And filming there at the old Bank of England, they were really generous. And again, this is one of those times Rick just says, oh, okay, I got it. He goes in, he has this idea of what he wants to do. And I sometimes in the pre-plan, I go, Rick, do you want me to arrange? No, I'll just call him. He'll just walk in. And he walks in and he can shoot his middle of it. Hey, we want to film this thing. And this is one of those times where he set this up. And he'll do that on the fly most often. And it works very well. It is definitely one of the benefits of working with Rick.
And this was the first time that you appear in a Rick Steves Europe episode. Is that true?
It is.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great honor.
Well, it's a great honor for me. I don't know if that's, we'll see how our ratings go. If they kind of
please, Josh. Well, I mentioned bingo earlier. And on the RSC bingo, there's a tab that says, if you see the silent bearded man, then you get that point. And of course, going forward, that's in reference to our great retired TV producer, Simon.
I would be thrilled. We can leave it. I mean, honestly,
we need another square.
We can add another square, but Simon has legacy, so he's worth it.
Yeah, he's still in many of the episodes.
Oh yeah, Simon's the best.
Stand the test of time, of course. Yeah,
great.
Okay, let's carry on.
Refreshed and back out on the street, more history awaits. This Tudor-style building is one of the few that survived London's Great Fire of 1666. Before that, back in Shakespeare's day, the entire city was made of wood, half timbered, and looked a lot like this. This monument commemorates that devastating fire that started here and burned down nearly all of London. These reliefs show in heroic terms how the king and city leaders came together determined to rebuild. A young, ambitious architect named Christopher Wren was chosen to spearhead the project. The city that rose from the ashes was rebuilt of stone, much safer. And that city was decorated by the Wren-designed spires of some 50 churches, featuring Wren's signature style, soaring spires, and geometrical simplicity outside, and under barrel-vaulted ceilings, practical, uncluttered interiors, seating galleries overlooking the nave, clear windows enhancing the interplay of light and dark, and artfully carved woodwork throughout. Christopher Wren spent 4 decades, the rest of his life, working on his grand vision. The centerpiece, this mighty cathedral, St. Paul's. It's the symbol of London's resilience, its rise from the Great Fire, and how London survived the Blitz of World War II. The church is one of the world's biggest. While the church's survival in World War II was almost miraculous, the apse of the church did take a direct hit. It was rebuilt as the American Memorial Chapel to honor our nation's contribution to the defense of Britain. We see Jesus, Mary, and George Washington. The American iconography includes stars, stripes, and eagles. And hiding behind birds and plants native to the USA, it's a U.S. rocket, circa 1958, shooting up to the stars. The British are grateful to their World War II allies. The Roll of Honor lists the 28,000 American servicemen based in Britain who gave their lives. The heart of the church is Wren's masterpiece, a majestic light-filled dome that visitors can't help but gaze up into with a sense of awe. Climbing the dome is like climbing a 30-story building with no elevator. And the reward? A commanding view of London. Christopher Wren spent nearly half his life working on St. Paul's. At age 75, he got to see his son crown his masterpiece with this triumphant cross.
One of my favorite experiences in London was actually going to an evensong here. It was very special, and that's a great way to see the interior of the church, so I would highly recommend it. And Josh, again, we see there's so much aerial footage here.
Oh, yeah.
Did you use a drone for this?
We did. Our production team in London, flying drones, operating drones it can be complicated depending on the jurisdiction you're in. When you watch the Burgundy show, Gourmet Barge Cruise that's in this season, there's drone footage in there that Carl, our photographer, he flew and he operated. Out in Burgundy in the countryside, it's somewhat easier, and they navigated that process. On this show, we didn't because the city of London is more complicated. So we either hire a vendor or we can find stock footage, and we look at the script and we do our research and find it. You know, in this sequence, the nod to the U.S. presence in the war and the rocket. You know, there was this period where Rick and I were talking about for broadcast, unlike streaming or on the web, a broadcast half-hour show on public television is 26 minutes, 46 seconds, 26, 46. So we are always trying to fit in more. It's 3,700 words on the script, but we can't go any longer. And that almost got cut just because we're trying to figure out what's the newest information, what's most important. Did we cover enough? I'm glad we left it in there. But I remember that was a discussion we had as we were nearing the ending of the editing process.
You know, seeing it this time, I'm glad you left it in as well, because I think it's more important now than ever that we remember the good relationship we have with our greatest allies.
And I think that was part of it but yeah, it's always challenging looking. When I watch a show now, I think I have that insider. It's like, that almost didn't make it, or we were also going to do this. And that was an instance, and so yeah, we left it.
Some difficult choices sometimes here, but
they're difficult creative choices. Yeah. In the big picture, it's television, but from a creative standpoint and from doing our trying to fulfill the mission of public television, public media, and really informing, it is difficult.
Well, I'm glad you made the choice to do that.
That's good. That's good.
London was born on the River Thames. Located near the mouth of the Thames, the city grew rich on trade between Britain's interior and the open sea. Once the sewer of the city, congested with cargo ships and routinely flooding, today the river's cleaned up and tamed by a massive flood barrier a few miles downstream. The Tower of London goes back to the Norman Conquest.
The year was 1066. Over in France, William, Duke of Normandy, gathered his troops. He crossed the English Channel, invaded, and occupied England. Ultimately, taking the English throne, he became William the Conqueror. To consolidate his rule, he built this, the first stone fortress in Britain. Yes, the Tower of London.
Okay, so I have to, when you watch the show, everything looks great. It's beautiful. I'll just tell you, Rick was pissed when we filmed it. He was mad that the line of people were coming in. We'd been delayed from the permit. We had to check in at the permit office. And so he's doing such a great job here because just to his right, people are crowding. They keep walking behind him. We got this permit, and yet it didn't really benefit us in this way. And it was nothing against the Tower of London or the society that It was just simply the nature of the day. It was busy. And so poor Rick, there's all these things happening. The sun is kind of starting to go down. They're giving us limited time because sometimes when you get a permit, they start counting the clock. Oh, you have 15 minutes. You have 10 minutes left. And we had a lot to do. And he really pulled through on this. But as I watch this, I see it through a different lens because remember, oh man, this was one of those we had to do a walkaway afterwards, but it looks great, and that's what matters. But in case you're wondering what it's like when we're there, it's not always just a pretty sunny.
You're probably stressed at times.
But it's production stress,
Yeah.
and so you just know, hey, fortunately everyone's professional, and we move on. But I just had to pause this here because as I watch this, if you want to know what Rick's thinking right now, he's like, I want everyone to leave me alone, and we just do this in peace. And so,
well, at least you were there in June, so you could maximize your daylight and time.
we had fantastic weather, which is going to lead us to a point here. It was 80 and 85 degrees when we were there for 12 days, which is great for filming. We will have to see, is that going to be more characteristic of the time in London? But even the Londoners were like, this is, we've never seen this before. Our tour local guides and so forth.
That's definitely above average.
It was great. And so you're right. It was great for filming. We have this beautiful blue sky behind him. Right after this, actually, we went and we turned, 180 degrees, and so you see Tower Bridge and you see the Thames right there. And so we filmed the open to the show. But this is one of those times where I think because we were running quickly, because things weren't going well, it just didn't really work. And so you won't see that in the show.
Well, we'll finish up with the Tower of London, and we'll talk again about some other things here at the Tower.
Its purpose? Put 15 feet of stone between him and his new subjects. This original tower, formidable like nothing locals had ever seen, gave the castle complex its name. The style of the age was Romanesque, which the English call Norman for the invaders who imported it. This stark yet serene Chapel of St. John, from 1080 and one of the oldest in England, provides a rare look at pure Norman architecture. Round Roman-style arches and thick walls. You'll see an intimidating collection of medieval weaponry and armor. Your entry includes a peek at the most dazzling crown jewels in Europe. Sorry, no cameras. And an entertaining tour with one of the historic Tower Guards, a yeoman warder or beefeater.
The Wakefield Tower just down there is named the Wakefield Tower after the Battle of Wakefield, which occurred during the Wars of the Roses. After that battle, hundreds of Yorkist prisoners were captured. They were crammed into the lower dungeon and just left there to die in appalling conditions. Some say it's the most haunted tower anywhere in the complex. In fact, people say to me all the time, Gary, have you seen any ghosts while you've lived here at the tower? What a great question. I've lived here now for 232 years, and I've never seen a ghost.
The beefeater, he was good. As I said before, when we were on a time crunch, and it was so hot that the person who the press office said, hey, the beefeater tour is canceled for the day because it's too hot. And so they canceled. And I said, oh, well, hold on. This was part of our deal. We had arranged for this and so on and so forth. So you negotiate a little bit and they said, okay, well, let's go see if we can find Gary. And Gary's like, no problem. Well, now it's just Gary and Rick standing there because they had canceled the tour. So no one was there to. Now, one of the benefits, you ask like, oh, how is it when you film with crowds, right? And it's one thing if you're at, Buckingham Palace. Here, now we sort of want a bit of a crowd, and we don't have one. And, again, the benefit of filming with Rick, he could say, okay, everybody, hey, who wants to be on camera? Okay, come on over. And he and everyone goes, oh, that's Rick Seeds. Oh, they're holding his book, and he comes over. And so we filmed, so then we sort of recreated this scene. And what I remember is, for television, you don't have a lot of time to prep, and they kind of just go into their normal story. And we needed a bit of a bite for television. And we were kind of watching it, and you kind of look over at Rick and making eyes, and it's like, no, we're not really getting what we want. Nigel, our local tour guide, he says, oh, he has this really great story. I said, go whisper in his ear. And so he went up and whispered. We kind of stopped for a second. He whispered in his ear, and then he told that story that's in there. So sometimes it's you spend 20 minutes and then in the last 3 minutes is all we need.
Well, you're recreating.
Yes, it's great. But I would say the tour is great. And the yeomen, the beefeaters, it's once you really learn their history, I think it's really fun when you hear, the requirements and the honor.
Like 30 years?
It'd be like that? 22 years.
22
they had
years,
to have been part of the kind of the regular military, the royal force. And then and then they live on the property. And so it's this great honor. And so I think while you could see this and goes, oh, is this sort of gimmicky? Is this really is it sort of cheesy? In okay, maybe their shtick is kind of fun, but then you think that's who's kind of behind the, that who this individual is truly is really earned the right.
Yeah.
And it's really impressive.
That's an important point. And the crown jewels are real.
No
And
cameras.
You,
We
yeah,
didn't go. In other episodes previously, a decade or so below, I was not there, but they arranged to get footage somehow. In this episode, we didn't go in there.
Well, the Tower of London is extremely important. I mean, it's
absolutely.
historically. So
Oh,
it's
very much.
Yeah, I'm glad you included it in this episode. And in terms of strategies on how to visit, I think, usually we would suggest two options. One is to go early and go straight to the crown jewels. The other is to go later, like maybe 1 or 2 hours before closing, and go to the tower and walk the walls. And then just a little before closing, go to the crown jewels, because that's the busiest point, the busiest spot. So usually there's fewer people there early and fewer people there late.
Or you can take your TV show and get a permit. And they show so, and even that has its own challenges. So yeah, plan in advance, plan accordingly.
And you can, of course, book a reservation for the Tower of London as well.
The Millennium Bridge connects the City of London with the south bank of the Thames. Built to celebrate the new millennium, it's a suspension bridge, but its pylons veer out in order not to obliterate the fine views. Nicknamed the Blade of Light for its sleek design, it connects old and new. St. Paul's Cathedral with the Tate Modern Art Gallery. The south bank of the Thames, yet another success story of a revitalized London, now thrives with trendy bars, condos, and cultural centers like Shakespeare's Globe Theatre, all tied together by the Jubilee Walkway. This riverside promenade stretches from the Tower Bridge to just across from Big Ben. It comes with plenty of opportunities to relax along the way. It's a hit with strollers, friends enjoying a picnic dinner, hardworking bands busking, lovers, and daydreamers. Our Riverside Walk finishes with a classic view of a familiar sight, Big Ben and the Halls of Parliament. And for a quick and easy flight over London, we're riding the London Eye. This world's largest observation wheel is designed like a giant bicycle wheel. This commanding view caps our royal tour of one of the world's greatest cities. London. It's a city kings and queens call home, and I can see why. Thanks for joining us. I'm Rick Steves. Until next time, keep on traveling. Cheerio.
Well, Josh, there's so much to experience in London. There's so much to see and do. As you mentioned earlier, 2646. What did you have to cut? What was not included in this episode that you would have liked to have fit in?
Well, I suppose that when you're there, you're surrounded by the London taxis, right? The black cabs are just, they're everywhere, and it's so recognizable. It's so iconic, London, and so we had originally planned to kind of do a bit where Rick jumps in the cab and he had a line about you can fit, and they're roomy, and so you can fit a whole production crew in there, and so then I was going, you could film with your cell phone, we could do selfie style, and we didn't have time for it, and honestly it's not something that future travelers really, they'll find that on their own. But what I, in researching that, and I started to reach out and see if I could find a cab who maybe let us do this and we could kind of set it up. The test that they take to become a London cabbie, it's called the knowledge test, and what I would say is, when you go to be able to know this about them and appreciate the work that they put in to become a licensed driver, makes you realize they have a master's degree in life. This is 3 to 4 years they study to take this test. They know 20,000 different points of interest. They have to be able to get from point A to point B over 25,000 different points. And, they have to know the quickest route to get there. And in the age of technology and, maps and just being able to research point A, point B without really thinking or having to know anything, there's something deeply romantic and just impressive by this humble group of people who know this, and that you'd never know that unless you unless you do just a little bit of research. And so I had the pleasure of doing that in anticipation of filming that scene. And so I really was like, oh, I'm so impressed. And it made me appreciate every time a black cab drove by, it wasn't just, oh, there's a taxi driver, but rather there's someone who's dedicated.
There's a trained professional going down the
Right.
road.
And that,
Yeah.
and it just kind of heightened the whole experience, which was part of just when you're just staying on a street corner, even sometimes that's just lovely.
And, although London has great public transit, taking a black cab is a wonderful thing to do as well. And obviously, now you've made it clear, talk to your driver.
Talk to the driver. I mean, London's what I found, having grown up here in Seattle, where we're based in Edmonds and growing up in the Northwest. London was very easy to get around, where you take the tube, where you take the double-decker bus. And so it was great. And we would kind of do whatever worked best, depending on how far we're going. And I'm telling you, we walk most places, but we jumped in the cab. And
you took the tube at all?
We took the tube. We took the tube quite a bit as well. We filmed in the tube for another episode, which you'll be able to enjoy. And the tube was so user-friendly, especially from the financial side, because you just tap in, tap out, and you don't have to worry about, oh, should I get a week pass? Should I get a full day pass? It'll calculate exactly the amount, so you get the most the best price, and you don't even have to plan it out. And I was like, why doesn't everywhere have this?
Yeah, that's a beautiful
Every
thing.
civilized place, I think, has it.
And it's so quick and efficient. Sometimes it is faster to take the tube than
yeah, it's great. And so and I think what it comes down to is trying both different experiences. And so on the TV side, we will often take the version that is most advantageous to us getting our goal, which is usually how can we get there quickest and easily with the gear. But if I was visiting, we had the luxury of trying all three, because in another episode we filmed Rick on the bus, and we're doing that. But having all three experiences was great. So you get to see the city in a whole different way.
Yeah, very true. Well, Josh, I appreciate you so much for taking the time to guide us through and offer a behind-the-scenes look at this episode. This is the first time I'm seeing it, because it just came out a week ago, so it's very special.
Right, yeah.
New content. So well done. Congrats.
Oh, it's a great episode. I love it. All the new content. If you want a how to watch guide, here's what I'd say for the 2 London episodes: is if you want to know, is it archive footage? If you see people. If it's new footage, the people on the street are all like this. They're all walking with their cell phone down. If it's old footage, they're looking around and they're chatting, or they have a phone that's 13 inches tall in their hand. And so sometimes when the editor Patrick and I are watching it, we go, we really got to replace these shots, because they just don't read anymore. Even though they don't enhance the story, it still looks the same. Sometimes we laugh internally because we're like, oh, that's an old shot.
Yeah, it's a reminder of some things have changed and some things have not changed. A lot of these museums are timeless, so they may not change. But like the Churchill War Rooms,
right? Churchill, yeah. And so exactly. And so if you're seeing a piece of architecture that hasn't changed, if you're seeing or a mode of transportation that basically is the same, we're going to look for new information, or we're going to focus on something more of an experience, because that's going to help make your own experience even better. And we want to convey that. Yeah. So true. And I just love listening to this. I hope that if you see these clips, even just watching now, and I've watched this show more than anybody, except maybe Patrick, the editor. I mean, he's watched a lot. It takes maybe a month to edit, one of these episodes. Half hour, and you play the clips over, or you look through hours of footage. I do love that every episode, you ask what's the producer's job. I think part of it is between Rick and Patrick and I to try to find a sense of emotion, so it's not just names, places, and locations, but you get that sense at the end of, this is a place of locals and dreamers, and it is just home for them. And there's something in that core of beauty of just like where you get this emotional connection. So I hope that comes through, because we spent a lot of time trying to weave that in there as well at the end.
I really think it does.
I hope so. I hope so. That's what we try. That's part of the job, and I don't know how else to explain it other than we spend energy and time making sure that it has a sense of emotion to it.
And you know what? The word from our sponsor for this MNT tonight is the season 13 series, and I think you've said why it's so fantastic, better than I could have. But I will just add that the new shows for season 13, there's 2 Iceland. There's 2 Poland.
Yes.
There's Italy highlights. There's 2 in France, including Barging and Burgundy.
Yes.
There's 2 Istanbul, and of course, here we have 2 in London. So a beautiful array of destinations, and they're almost all on our website. I think we still have 1 or 2 more in the coming weeks. So
Yeah, and then London yesterday and today is the 11th episode in season 13, and I think that officially releases next week. And then it depends where you are to watch.
well, congratulations again.
Oh, it's great
to
fun.
Patrick.
I'm so lucky to be here. Oh yeah, and big kudos to Patrick and to Carl because it takes a team.
Yes, yes. A small but powerful and mighty
It's
team.
small. You just have to have good walking shoes. That's it.
Okay, Gabe has been sending us questions, so let's see what we can answer.
I would have done my hair if I knew when I was
Well,
coming up
that's
today.
that's actually because Suzanne asked, does Rick have someone to do his hair and makeup?
Yours truly. So okay, so what else does the producer do? So there's the producer in pre-production where we plan the show, and then there's the producer in the field. Okay, you guys want to, okay, here's a couple. So I do Rick's hair, as I put in my hand, and he likes it. So in his backpack, what does Rick carry in his backpack? He carries his hairspray, he carries a little lip balm, and he carries water. And he carries his guidebook and the script. And the script is usually like in the pocket. But sometimes I love that Rick carries his guidebook. He's in London and he'll go, he'll be like, oh, where's this thing? And he opens his London book and I'm like, you're reading your guidebook. This is like so surreal. And so I do his hair, and Rick's got really good hair, speaking from someone who, and so, okay, if you guys want the real secret, so Carl Cameron has been with Rick for 25 years, really since the beginning. There's been a couple others, but Carl, and so they have a really good vibe. And Carl his number one job is to make Rick look good and make the show look good. He also is instrumental in helping us with script. But so the key word that we can all appreciate if we're going to be on camera is we say Poncho Patrol, and that just means, hey, maybe let's stand up a little straighter. And so we make sure Rick looks good. So hair and, I'll go up and straighten out his shirt, if we're going to sit in a chair, we want it to look like this. So anyway, I didn't do a good job on that shot.
Well, it makes sense. You're the ones looking at him. So it's easier for you to see how he's appearing.
Rick has his number one, he has a lot going on. One, he's got to memorize the lines. He's got to deliver it in the certain tone. Is this very upbeat? Does it matter the fact? Is it promotional where he needs to kind of draw you in? He also has other things that just go on in terms of logistics, and sometimes he's making arrangements with where we're going because he manages sometimes those connections. So Carl and I really do it's our job to make sure that everything else is taken care of, so he doesn't have to worry that how will he look, and is the light right? Is it in focus? Is the background good? If someone walks behind and says, I'll say, Rick, we got to do it again because, someone was standing on the bridge waving. I'll say, Rick, we should do it again. That wasn't a great take. Or someone walked behind him. And there's a lot of trust that goes on.
Josh, what was the most surprising thing that happened during this filming 10 or so days in London?
Surprising was, but what was surprising? The weather, the thing that I would say we were most, you're always a little apprehensive about on a show like this is we're very weather dependent. And not just is it not going to be wet or raining, but we want it to look alive because we want to show it off in the way that we think will make it an appealing and beautiful program. So we were just really pleasantly surprised by that. Other surprises, on the production side, not really. We didn't really have any big hiccups. I mean, the show it's pretty well oiled. It moves. If anything, I was probably surprised at how, honestly, how much fun it was. The days are long. We work after we're done filming. A lot of times we'll go back into the room with Rick at night and review the script and make sure we're getting everything. So the days are long, and yet somehow it's just great fun. It's really great.
Now, Scott is curious about the archived footage term. What do you mean by that? Is it our footage, or is it?
It's a great question.
Stock versus archive.
Okay, great question. So when I use the term in this conversation, and generally when I'm talking with people and internally when we say archive, it's Rick Steves' original photography. That would be our work. We also use stock footage, which will be like some drone shots. I think in this episode, when we did the Churchill War Room, we showed some World War II footage. In other shows, we'll use stock footage, especially if we're trying to show something in the historical past. In this episode, similarly, when we were showing Trafalgar Square, we wanted to show off what other events happened there. So I think there was like, they were celebrating as a sports team win or political rally. Well, those don't happen on that day, and we're not going to be there to get it. So we can look for stock footage. So stock footage. In addition, there's stock music that we use, and so we license all this, and it's through our, there's through the production resources out there. I could go on and on. Sorry, I got too carried away.
No, thank you for clarifying.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Nick would like to know how often you get stopped by travelers while filming. Is this an issue?
It's
or a pleasant surprise?
It's both, and so it kind of depends how it's going. So the short answer is yes, quite a bit. And I think that's in part because we're in places where there are tourists, and we're in places where people are using Rick Steves' book, and so they know who he is. I can imagine a scenario where if we were well off the beaten path,
Sure.
it might. So I would say yes, every day, several times a day. And to Rick's credit, he's very good about if we are ahead of schedule and things are going well. No problem. And he just takes their phone, he takes a great shot of them, and
He knows exactly.
He knows. He's such a pro.
He taught me how to do it. Give a
he's
selfie,
such a
by
pro.
the way. He's great at that.
And then there are times where, like that one shot in front of London Tower, and things are not going well, and people afterwards, and he'll just say, "I'm working." And that's it. And it's very it's even keeled, and it works well, and they understand. And then I'll try to jump in as well and say, hey, I can see him starting to crouch in ahead of time if we're doing a stand-up, and I'll just say, no, thanks. And people are very respectful.
Brionna would like to know how Rick packs. Do you have any sense? How many shirts does he bring?
Okay. You asked about biggest surprise, but my first show was in Rome, and so that's when I had the most surprises, because my first show, and I went into his, I go in his room because we'll talk about the script or we'll meet about something, and I was kind of nosing around going, where's your clothes? Nope. He packed that bag, the bag that he and the company say you can travel for 7 or 40 days. It's true. And so he packs. And what's funny is I think only recently, maybe season 12, because I talked to Simon about this, did he start bringing 2 purple shirts. I was like, when we were in Rome, Rick was about to eat a dessert, and I said, "Oh," and I gave him my jacket because it had, had some jelly in it or something. And I said, "No, you need a wardrobe shield, because if you spill this jelly, we're done for the day." So, I mean, I've seen 2 purple shirts, but that's where we go.
He's a master at washing in the hotel room. It's really quite. I haven't gotten that skill. That is not a travel skill that I've learned.
I'm really impressed because I can say he practices exactly what he preaches. And Carl and I both pack. I pack way more than Rick. Carl packed way more than Rick. He does it, and he looks great, and it works.
How do you decide which episodes to update next? Is there a lot of debate about this?
I probably haven't been here long enough in the one season, because I came midway through, and I'm getting glimpses on what we're up to next. So Rick has a plan for that, and I don't know what that is. I just truly don't.
You'll learn more in time.
I'll learn more. Yeah.
Well, I will just ask you one more question. Mary says that she would love new shows on Ireland. That's a hint.
Yeah. Okay, great. Good to know. I'll write that down. That's good.
I mean, Ireland's always a good choice, And actually, some of them are a little older. They're evergreen shows. They're a little, they've been around.
If I will do everything I can to update all of our shows, because I think it's a great service. I think it's great content. But I don't have final say.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
Understood. Without giving away any company secrets, what would the shows you would most want to see next, Josh?
Okay. Well, I don't think this gives away company secrets. So
no.
Yeah, I do think so. Here's something about Rick. If you really, when you get to know him, and if you read, especially if you read the Hippie Trail, or you really listen to the thread that's gone through all of his lectures and all of his teachings and everything, he travels. He has the spirit of a 21-year-old with a backpack. He just does, right? And it's so infectious, because when he's there, he just loves it. He's so inspired when he's there, and he just loves to maximize the experiences. And I think when his genesis of traveling in that nature, I think I can say this because I've kind of chatted with him about this. He didn't really care about food. right? Food was just a means to an end. Get enough fuel in my body so that I can get to my next destination, my next art, right? Or to see this next great masterpiece or this next building and really see more places. I think there's a little room for more, if I say a culinary type of experience, simply because food is such a great way for people to connect. There's this great conviviality and it's very cultural. And so I do think there might be an opportunity to weave hints of that in there. I think we'll see Rick eating in food, but the emphasis is a little less. And so if I would, but again, it won't be my decision.
Yeah, but you can share what you think.
I just think that food is a great way. Again, it's a cultural connection. It's a great travel experience. And I think there's a way to help tell those stories and highlight some of those experiences for travelers.
That's a great point. I mean, it's one of my favorite parts of traveling.
And so I mean, who doesn't like to eat? And I think so that would be my that would be one opportunity that I in my experience and my understanding hasn't been as untapped.
Well, Josh, you have a lot of experience, you have a lot of knowledge and wisdom, and we so appreciate you going through London with us.
You'll never know how much fun this has been for me. I hope it was meaningful. Sorry that it wasn't the person you expected it would be. But if you ever want behind the scenes, just call me up and I'll chat yours off about making television.
Well, this will be in a recording, so
there you go. You can watch it all you want. Yeah.
Well, Josh, thank you again.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
And everyone, I hope you enjoyed this behind the scenes look at our new episode, Royal London. Thank you so much for traveling with us and for partying with us, British style.
My beer's gone.
Yes, you did well.
Ben, you're sure there's no monsters below us?
Gabe, the Loch Ness Monster is a myth. The only thing below us is the subscribe button, which you can click on to be notified of new travel videos.
Then Ben, what is that?
That's the link to join live Monday night travel shows.
No, behind that.
Ah yes, that would be the Loch Ness Monster. We should probably escape now.